Okay, I'll be going over tutorial 6, case problem 3, the Lyman Hall Theater. All right, and I'm going to get started the same way that I always get started. So I have my preview pane right here. I'm going to click this link to open up a new tab for that so that I can preview it as a full screen. And then I'm going to minimize this and get it out of my way. I always also click this folder to shrink that up and get it out of my way. And then I am going to look over the previews here. They have a couple of images. They have a mobile size preview so we can see what the final product is going to look like. And then they have a desktop size preview. And below all of that is the summary, and I always read the summary because if I'm going to do any work for a client, I need to know a little bit about them and a little bit about what kind of work they want done. So I'm going to read the summary. The Lyman Hall Theater. Lewis Kern is an events manager at the Lyman Hall Theater in Brookhaven, Georgia. The theater is in the process of updating its website, and Lewis has asked you to work on pages detailing events in the upcoming year. He's asked you to create a calendar page that lists upcoming events for January, February, and March. Now, actually, we're only going to do the 1 month here. It's February. There are a few days in January and a few days in March, so it's a little misleading. A few days in January, all of February, and a few days in March. A list of events is stored in the schedule.txt file. Lewis wants a responsive design, so the calendar is readable both mobile and desktop users. We have the preview here. This is the mobile view, and this is the desktop view. The desktop view is a very traditional looking calendar. The mobile view, because you can't read full-size tables on a mobile, of course it's going to look a little bit different, a lot different. In addition to the calendar, Lewis wants the article describing the February events displayed in column layout. So we see the columns here in the desktop view, and in our preview and our starting page, we just have one large area. So we're going to put that into columns as well. That'll be the last thing we do on this project, actually. He suggests you set the width of the columns, allowing the number of columns to be determined based on the width of the display screen. Sure, that sounds great. A preview of the page is shown above. We've already looked at that. And then MindTap has some generic instructions that they do have all the time. They remind you to have a look at the layout of the page so you can get familiar with the page that you're working inside of. Okay, I've already done so, so we don't have to do that right now. And then we can get started. All right, okay, I do have a clean project here. Our first step will be to link the CSS files, and we're going to have to do that all the way up here in the head on our February.html. Okay, so we have to link the tables and the columns file. So I'm going to follow the dry method. Don't repeat yourself. I'm going to copy and paste the styles that are already up there, and then just change the names. So this one, I will change to tables.css, and the next one I will change to columns.css. And then we have this blue box that says we won't be tested on this part of the step. Of course, if we do it wrong, then none of our next steps will be displayed on our page. So hopefully we've done it right. I believe we have. All right, and getting along with our next step, Directly below the article element, insert a web table using the class calendar, and then add the caption with the text February 2018 calendar. So find the article, that's this area with all those paragraphs in it, and directly below the article, some assignments, they say directly below the paragraph in the article, and this one wants us to be fully directly below the article. So we're going to start by inserting a table, and inside that table we'll put the caption. And the caption they want us to have is this text right here, February 2018 calendar, vintage month. Okay. The table should be class calendar. So class equals calendar, and that is our first step here. Just create a table and put a caption in it. If we look at our page, we can see that we do indeed have a table with a caption. And the table is fully collapsed. There's nothing in it. It's very small, but we can get this step checked off. All right. Remember, we do have to check off every single step in order. If you get out of order, things become very difficult because if you've already done a later step, the page is, of course, going to look different when you try to get accepted for an earlier step. So it's important to do them in order. All right, next step, table columns. Add a column group containing two call elements. Give the first call element the class name weekdays and have it span 5 columns. Give the second call element the class name weekends and have it span 2 columns. So this is really going to be used on the mobile view, actually, because the weekdays and weekends on the desktop view, we have the weekends are actually on the left and the right, so we would have to organize it by saying one call group of weekend and then 5 call groups of weekdays and then one more of weekends. So this is going to be for the mobile size, and the mobile screen looks completely different. We're going to do that one first, I think, if I remember this assignment correctly. I'm going to do them both anyway, regardless. Oops. So the first one is weekdays, and this one is to span 5 columns. Forgot to equals a quotation mark here. Span equals 5, and calls are self-closing tags. They don't have a separate opening and closing because they don't contain anything. And the second one, weekends, of course, that is going to be 2 column spans for a total of 7 days in a week. So we can get accepted for this, get the check mark on this one. This one is one of those check marks that actually reads your code and looks for specific words. So if I look in here, it's actually running some code and it's looking specifically for inside the table element that is class name calendar, look for a call group and look for a call that's class name weekdays. And then the second one, look the same thing, but we're looking for a call that's class name weekends. So this one actually dives right into your code and looks for those elements, even though they don't contain anything. So that's this step. Next is going to be the table header row group. Table header row group is, of course, going to be the T head. T head is the table header row group. We'll do a T foot later on, I think, and a T body. I guess this table doesn't have a T foot, just a head and a body. In the header row group, a single row with 7 heading cells containing the 3-letter day abbreviation Sunday through Saturday. So we'll have a single row, and inside this single row we'll have 7 T heads, each with the 3-letter day. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. All right, all 7 days. And we don't have much in our table yet, just that header. And of course, everything is still shrunk down. It's not taking up any space yet. Should get accepted for this one. It is taking a little while. There we go. We got that one. And the last one, this is going to be a lot here, I think. The table body. Add the table body row group with 5 rows and 7 cells in each row. So 5 rows and 7 cells across each row. That's the days of the week, and 5 weeks in the month. Months, of course, don't actually have 5 weeks, but if they start in the middle of the week, they're going to end in the middle of the 5th week. So we do need 5. Within each table cell, add the following code to create an H1 and a description list. So we have an H1, and then we'll have a description list with a description title and a description data, 2 of those. And then where day is the day of the month, and event is the name of the event, time is the time, price is the admission price. Using the information in the schedule, we have to replace all those values. If there is no event scheduled for that day, then we are only going to insert the day for the H1 tag and have no description list. So starting our calendar with January 28th on Sunday, then we'll do all this first, and then we'll come back to this part afterwards. So first, I need to create the T-body. T-body. And then 5 rows. Actually, I'm going to do 1 row at a time. Each row containing 7 cells, and each cell containing this information. Okay, I'm going to copy and paste that right into this cell. I'm going to fix my spacing. Okay, and I need 7 of these cells. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then I need 5 of these rows, and copy the whole row. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now I have, if I refresh my page, now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 columns. So that looks good. I can move on to the next, where I actually have to place all the event information into each one. So a lot of copying and pasting. There we oops, I have actually oh no I don't. Okay, thought I had this schedule in a different file. I do not. So what I'm going to do is copy every date, placed it in the day, and then wait a second. I need to look at the preview of this. Okay, here's my preview. Actually, I just need the number of the day in each one. So I can come into here, undo that change. The day will be 28, 29. I can put all these in. 30, January has 31. And then start back with February. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. Is this a leap year? It's not. 1, 2, 3. And is that right? We go to March 3rd. All right, great. So refresh that. So I have all the numbers in place. And now I can go back to the top because there's not an event every single day. If we look at the final result, we don't have an event every single day. So copying and pasting the events before the numbers are in are going to lead me to a mistake. So I want the numbers first, and then I can come in and say, all right, January 28th, it's going to be this Carson Quartet, and I can place that event name and the time and the price. Okay, now something I have noticed is that the Carson Quartet at the same time and the same price every Sunday. So I should be able to take this whole data description list, copy it, see what the next day is going to be the 4th, and I can copy this into here and do them over and over again. Okay, next is the 11th. And I can save myself a little bit of time by doing it this way. There are a few events that repeat, and I can do them this way as long as I make sure to paste them in the right spot. And I will double check myself as soon as I have this last one. So I have the Carson Quartet on every Sunday. Beautiful. And I can go back to the top, and the next one is the Harlem Choir on the 29th. And copy the time and copy the price. And I want to check. All right, Harlem Choir is right here. I don't see another showing of the Harlem Choir, so that's going to be the last one there. But I do see that the next 3 days had no event. So for the next 3 days, I can just delete the description list only. I have to leave the number in there. All right, and then That was 3 days. So on the 2nd, Taiwan Acrobats, that's this one. Okay, I don't think that one has more than one showing either, but I'll just do the one. The nice thing about having pasted all those events on Sundays is as I'm scrolling through, I'll be able to see the Sunday event, and it'll keep me on track when I get to it. So the next event is Saturday the 3rd, Joey Galway. Paste that in, and the time. And the price, and I don't see this one in more than once either. Okay. And then that leads me to a Sunday event, and I'm on track. Go back to, all right, the 5th is empty. So I can remove that. The 6th does have an event. Ralph Williams on the 6th. I could also use the list here instead of going back and forth to the final view. 6th, nothing for the 7th here on the list. I could use just the list, and then I can delete the event information, the description list on the 7th. Go directly to the 8th. The 8th is West Side Story, and I can see the 9th and the 10th is also West Side Story. And I'm going to check on the full-size calendar to see if there's even one more. Okay, so 8, 9, and 10, and there's no other West Side Stories that I can see, but I can still copy this onto the 9th and the 10th. Be careful when you're copying and pasting that you don't highlight one extra or not enough rows here and you put your information in correctly. All right, it's really easy to do, and it's going to mess up your whole table perhaps. All right, so then I run into the next Sunday, and I already have the Carson quartets in place. For the 11th, nothing on the 12th and 13th on my list, so I can remove the description list from 12 and 13 and go right to the 14th, Chamberlain Symphony, time, and price. Chamberlain Symphony is here. No other duplicates of that. Nothing on the 15th. Moving on to the 16th. Edwin Drood, he's here 2 days. So I know I can do a quick copy and paste of this event once I've got the first one in place. He's on the 17th. And the 18th is another Carson quartet on a Sunday. So I can keep scrolling. No 19 or 20, no events there. So I can delete this standard text. And moving to 21, we have the Jazz Masters. Okay, no event on the 22nd. The 23rd event, the yearling. I almost pasted that one in the wrong day. I scroll a little bit farther than I was used to. Okay. Be careful of pasting in the wrong day. I got an event for the 24th, an Ellington tribute. Probably going to be a nice event. All right, and the 25th is another Carson's quartet. So I am still on track. No event on the 26th and 27th. I've noticed a pattern. There's not a lot of events on Mondays and Tuesdays. Okay. And the 28th event, the Madtown Jugglers. Which this event seems to not quite fit in. Everything else seems to be musical. I'm not sure about juggling. I'm on to the last three are Othello. All right, that's a play. Possibly musical, but probably not. All right, so I'll put that in the last 3 days. I think it's all at the same time and price. Yes, it is. All right, so now I have all that in place. My calendar is pretty full now, and it doesn't look like I put anything out of order or broke any of my table code, so that's good. It's very easy to accidentally paste something incorrectly, so I was pretty careful. Let's see, we have the last part of this step. Okay, for each data cell you create in the table body, add an attribute in the opening TD tab named data date. Okay, this is going to be an attribute as it says, so we'll put this directly into the HTML. And this attribute data date will be containing the date associated with the cell. For example, in the first table cell, enter data date value Sunday, January 28, 2018. The second cell, Monday, January 29th, 2018, and so on. And they have a note that this code will be used to display on the mobile layout, which I suspected. So we'll put this into the TD. Now an attribute goes directly in here, and we say the attribute name equals whatever the value is. So this attribute is a data attribute, and data attributes start data dash, and that means it's a data attribute, and whatever comes after the dash, we get to name these. We can call them whatever we like. They're just variables. So we could call it date as we have here. We could call it any other variable name that we want. So we're going to call it data date because that's what they specifically asked us for. Okay, and then the first one is going to be Sunday, comma, Jan 28, comma, 2018. So what I'm going to do is copy and paste this TD line into the next one and then change the date. Monday, January 29th, 2018. Tuesday, the 30th. Wednesday, the 31st. And now I have February. Let's copy that. I'm going to move a little quickly with this if I can. and just put these in. Whoop, wrong day. All right, and now, well, no, I have to wait. I was going to try and save myself typing the day of the week by copying from earlier, but then I would have to retype February anyhow. So move on with that. Be very careful with this one, because if some of these days are, because we deleted these description lists, some of them are shorter visibly than others, and we could easily skip one when we're pasting. I'm going to start scrolling back and forth. Because I've typed in all the days of the week now. And I can come in and just swap the numbers out until I reach the next month. So what I'm doing here, as you can see, is the next day I have to do is a Thursday, so I'm scrolling back to a previous Thursday and copying and paste it below, just to save myself from typing the day. All right, you don't have to do it this way. I'm just trying to go as quickly as I can. Type as little as I can. And one thing, this Carson Quartet that's always on Sundays is going to help me make sure that I stay on track. So whenever I get to one, I will double check that I am indeed putting a Sunday. Also, if you're pretty quick at adding and subtracting sevens in your head, you'll be able to tell if you've gotten out of order by looking at the number that you're changing. So, for example, the next one I'm going to do is the 24th, and I need to grab the 17th for that. Okay. Getting close. I reached March 1st. I can stop scrolling. March 3rd is the last day. So I can refresh my page. No changes because the only thing we added since the last time we looked at this is all these data dates, and they don't visibly show anything because they're just attributes. So we should be able to get that. Hopefully in my copying and pasting, I didn't make any mistakes. Although if I did, I wouldn't be surprised. I'm actually surprised I didn't make any mistakes. So very awesome. All right, now we have all the data in place and we have the table for that data in place. Now we're going to move on to just styling this information. We'll start with the mobile style. So we're going to start with our media query for that mobile style at media screen and max width of, they're telling me 640 pixels. Okay, so the media query, we've done a lot of them recently, right? The mobile size is going to be all screens up to a maximum width of 640 pixels. That's what this one is. Blue note here says that we won't be tested on that, but we will be tested on everything we put inside of that. So the first step is we want our mobile devices to display the calendar information in 2 columns. So if we remember from the first page, we had our mobile display that looked like this. All the event information is on the right-hand side, and on the left-hand side, what we see is actually everything that we typed into the data date attribute. So somehow we're going to get that visible on the page. It's not visible yet. Okay, so first thing is we need to take the table, the t-body, all the rows, all the data cells, and all the header cells, and the caption, and display them as blocks. This is going to force them all to be block level element, 100% width with a carriage return, and the next element will be below. So this is going to stack all these elements vertically. All right, we can do this all in one. All right, and what I like to do when I have multiple elements here and I put a comma to separate them, I actually go down to a new line every time to make it easier to read. So I'm going to hit a new line each time. Table, T body, T row, T D, T H, and caption. All right, so all of these will be display block only on the mobile sides. So if we refresh our page, nothing happens yet, but if we look at the mobile view, now we see everything is being displayed vertically. Everything in the table, one long vertical column. Okay, next it says we don't want to display the T head or the H1 element. The H1 element is not part of the table, but it is this here at the very top. So we're not going to display that. Okay. Oh no, we're not going to display the H1. The H1 is in the table. That's the day right here. We're going to hide those. That's the one we're talking about. It doesn't say specifically to hide only the H1 in the table though. So I'm going to hide all the T heads and all the H1s on the page. And we do that by saying display none. So now if we refresh on a mobile size, we get no day numbers. Okay, we also can't see that paragraph on the mobile size already. That's been taken care of for us. Okay. Next, display the table caption in white on medium gray background using the RGB color of this value and a font size of 1.5 EM and a line height of 2. So we'll do all that. That's the caption. Caption will be color of white, background color of RGB 51, 51, 51. That's what they want there. And font size of 1.5 EM. So 1.5 times the size that it would naturally inherit from its parent. And a line height of 2. That will be 2 times its current font size, so there's a little space above and below. And if we refresh that, we can see our caption is now white text with a gray background and is a little bit larger, and there's a little space on it. We're going to do that space with a line height. It's more uniform than doing some padding, so we'll do that. And we can get the exception check for that. Well, it's taking a while. There we go. All right, keep in mind that I have seen this one is going to check with a picture. Yeah, it used a picture to check that. On occasion, if they do programmatically look through your code to check it and they have an RGB code in there, they actually are going to read your code, and specifically they will want a space in there. It's not required, but in order for the program to be able to find it, the characters do need to be exactly where they're expected. Next, we're going to style the table cells. Create a style rule for every data cell that does these 5 things. So every data cell, that's TD. And first thing, we'll do a border, 1 pixel, dotted, and gray. So I've not done a dotted border recently. It functions the same as the solid border, except it's a dotted line instead of a solid line. Change the text color, that's color, to an RGB value, and that value is 11, 12, 145. So that's some kind of blue color. Places the cell using relative positioning, so we can just say position relative. This is going to, got a typo. This is going to keep that in line a little bit better and allow us to set the padding and the height as well, because we may have trouble doing that if it's not relative position. So the padding on the left, it doesn't say anything about padding anywhere else, so we'll specifically set the left padding to 40% and the minimum height, min height, to 40 pixels. Now I'm going to cut this min height out and show you what it looks like without. So we have this, and we have all those dotted borders, and you'll see some of these borders look thicker than others, and that is because some of these data cells don't have any content and they've been collapsed to nothing, and so their borders are stacking up on top of each other. And if I put this height back in, then you'll see the separation. Now all the borders, the dotted borders, are the same. They're not stacked on each other anymore. And these empty cells have a minimum height of 40 pixels, so that we can see when we put the date in here, we'll see that there's no event for that date. Instead of just skipping it altogether, we'll actually have something displayed to the users so they don't have to make that So you don't have to figure that out from missing information. They can see for themselves what it is. Okay, so we have that. We should be able to get accepted on that and get that check mark from that little robot guy. All right, thanks, little robot guy. Table row section. Okay. Create a style rule that uses nth of type pseudo class to display every odd numbered table row with a background color of this color, which is all red, almost all green, and kind of blue. So this is going to be that kind of yellowy color that we have. And a 2-pixel solid gray border. So nth of type on a table row. So table row is tr, and the pseudo class, we use a colon and write nth of type. This means the nth of type n is just a math variable, and inside the parentheses we're going to write what that variable is. So the nth of type is going to be all the odd numbers. That's a keyword that we can put in here. We can use even and odd, and we can also write some math formulas. We could write 2n, 2n plus 1, 2n plus 2, and we can create a formula that we'll be able to write style rules for every. We can write every third. We can do like every 3n plus 1, something like that. We're going to do every odd numbered one, so every other one, starting with the first one. And this will be getting a background color. This RGB value, 255, 235, and 178. And I have a typo, always typos on there. When I'm typing back and forth between my left hand and my right hand, sometimes my hands get out of sync with each other. That's a thing that I do. Okay. A 2-pixel solid gray border. So border 2-pixel solid gray. All right, and that's the table row. Let's have a look at what that looks like. So every other row, so this row, that's a week. This row is a week. This row is a week. Each row is a week. We have 5 rows. And we've created a little border around these yellow ones and created a background color. So we should be able to get accepted for that and get a great job from our little robot friends. Yes. Okay. Now this last one on this page is really cool. This is where we're going to use this data date attribute that we set. We can figure out what that is going to do. So create a style rule that inserts the text from the data date attribute. We're just going to insert it before every data cell. Place the attribute text using absolute positioning. We're going to place it into this space we created on the left-hand side here. At the coordinates of 0, 0, with a width of 40% and a padding space of 5 pixels. So this is going to, we would set it to the 0, 0 of each TD, and then when we have the padding of 5 pixels, that'll create our visual space around here. We'll put that in there. This is really cool. So we're going to use the before tag. Okay, that's actually 2: before. Okay, now every element actually has a before and an after. They don't have any content in them. And so if it has no content, it doesn't get displayed. It doesn't get built into the DOM. It doesn't exist if it has no content. So we have to give it some content. And lucky for us, the content we're going to give it comes from this data date, and we can access that in CSS. So we're going to set the content to ATTR, short for attribute, parentheses, and the attribute we're going to set it from is the data date of the TD value. Data date. Okay, so if I was to refresh this right away, now we can see that that data date exists in every single one, but we want to push it over and put it over on the side. So then we're going to go ahead and do that absolute position. Oops. Absolute. Top 0 pixels, left 0 pixels, and padding of 5 pixels, they said, and a width of 40 pixels, they said. So now, if I refresh that, it'll be positioned absolutely, which takes it out of flow of the page, but the content is still there and still visible, and we pushed it off to the side. And now as we scroll down, we have on the right-hand side all the events for each day, and on the left-hand side, we have the date value that we had set previously. So that is really cool. That uses the before and the content and the attribute all in one. So we get checked for that. All right, awesome. All right, so that is page 3. We'll go on to page 4. Page 4, we're going to work on our desktop media query. And first we have to write the media query. It's going to be the opposite of the mobile one because we only have the 2. So media screen, and mobile is max. This is going to be min width of 641 pixels. Okay, and I'm at the very end of my document, so I'm going to create a few spaces just so I can see it better. And move on to our table style. We're going on to the desktop size, so we can expand this and see that, wow, our desktop size, let me refresh this. That's not right at all. Oh, that's why. See, my desktop size is all crazy because I got this curly brace from my media query, my mobile media query. I left it all the way up here, and it needs to be actually encompassing all of my mobile media queries. So let me correct that and fix my spacing so I can read it a little better. And I was able to get a positive check on all of the mobile sizes because that only negatively affected the desktop size, and MindTap wasn't checking the desktop size until now. It will start. So now my desktop size is clean. I don't have anything for it yet. Here we go with our first step. Create a style rule for the table element that does all of these things, okay? Display a background image, and here's the file name, with no tiling, positioned in the bottom right corner of the table, and a width of 40%. So I am going to use the shorthand of the background instead of just background image and set everything one at a time. You can definitely set everything one at a time if you choose to, but for this, I'm going to use the shorthand. And so the file name is that. It's a URL, and it's LHT underscore photo1.png. It goes inside the parentheses after this URL command. There's no tiling, and actually that's called repeat, no repeat, okay? By default, a background image is going to tile or repeat in the X direction and the Y direction, so both horizontally and vertically. This image, we don't want it to be repeated. We only want it a single time, so we put no repeat, and the position in the bottom right, and we can use keywords for that as well, bottom and right. And the width, we can set the width in here. The shorthand is that we set the height and then the width. We're setting the height to the default. We're leaving it as auto. So we're going to do a slash, leave that blank, and set 40% for the width. Okay, we can see what that looks like. And now we have this image. Let's see. I can't use any keywords for that because they might get mixed up with the other shorthand stuff. So let's go on to the next one. That's a long background. If I wanted to do everything separately, I would do a background image, a background repeat, a background position, and a background size. But instead, I put them all into one. Next is a border. All right, this border is 6 pixel double border. That's another new one for us. It's just like the solid, except there's a solid and a space and another solid. It's a double. And the color is an RGB of 154, 64, and 3. Okay. Collapse the table borders. So that's actually called border collapse. And that sets in between all the cells, there's some space in there, and it's going to collapse all that. So collapse is our choice. And center the table by setting the top and bottom margin to 20 and the left and right to auto. So we've done margin with 0 auto a few times. This time we're doing 20 pixels and auto. So when you do the shorthand of margin, the first number is the top and bottom, the second number is the left and right, and auto will center it so long as there's space to do so. And our next command is to set the width to 85%. So there, of course, there will be space for that margin. So we refresh that. The cool thing about the double border is the corners overlap and create a nice little effect right there. So that's pretty cool. And we can get accepted for that. We finished the table style. It takes a while sometimes. There we go. All right, the next one is the heading and cells. I got to keep track of this little curly brace and stay inside of it, not like the last time. Otherwise, I won't get that final check at the end. Okay, so for this one, for every heading and data cell, we can do that. Every heading and data cell, head, th, and td, put all these rules in there, and they have a hint for this last one. Okay, so we'll do one at a time. It's a border first. That's easy enough. Border is 1 pixel solid gray. And the next is a font size of 0.85 EM. This is going to be like 85% of its inherited value, 85 EMs. And the font weight, the next it says with a normal weight, that's font weight. we can set that to normal. And this is going to override the default for the THs are in the browser is displayed as bold, and this is going to override that and set them to normal. So there's still going to be THs so that they can be Google searched properly and they can be used by screen readers and the like. But visually to everyone else, they're going to look exactly like the TDs now. Add a 5-pixel padding space. So that's just padding. Padding of 5 pixel. The shorthand 1 value means the top will be 5, the right will be 5, the bottom will be 5, and the left will be 5. Align the cell text with the top of the cell. This is the vertical align. So vertical align, when we want to align the text in a cell, and we have all these options that we can set. Now they've said align the cell text with the top of the cell, and so we're going to choose top, not text top or any of the others. We're going to choose top. Okay, and set the width to 14.28%, and I haven't done the math, but I suspect that 14.28% times 7 days of the week equals 100%. I have a suspicion. And then the last one here that they have a hint for, it says allow the browser to wrap cell text within individual words. And the hint is use the word wrap property. So let's try the word wrap property. Word wrap, and our options are the initial, inherent, and unset. Those are always options. So our real options are either break word or normal. And it's not going to be normal because if it were, we probably wouldn't have to set it to anything because that's got to be the default, right? So we're going to set it to break word, which will allow the text wrap to wrap on individual words, and it won't have to wait for sentences or anything like that. So we're going to allow the text to wrap by words wherever it wants. So let's have a look at what we've done here. Now it's looking like a calendar. Not really colored yet, but we have all of our squares and spaces and everything. It's looking pretty good. Okay, so we should be able to get, oh no, we have more here. We didn't finish that. We have more before we can get the final check. All right, so this first set of CSS rules was for every heading cell and every data cell, TH and TD. The next one is just for the table data cells. So that's just for the TDs. The TDs are, of course, they're going to get all of this and whatever we put here. So we're going to apply a semi-transparent background color with the value RGBA, and here's the digits on there. So we've used a lot of RGBs already. RGBA, the A stands for alpha value, and that setting goes from 0 to 1, 0 being completely transparent and 1 being completely solid. Okay, and any value in between 0 and 1, so any decimal, is going to be somewhere in between there. So they've asked for 0.6, which is just more than half. So, that's pretty good. That's what they. I'm going to make sure that I say specifically background color. And I forgot to type RGBA in here. If I'm only setting the background color, I do like to specifically say background color. And I also want the text color, that's just color. And that's going to be an RGB with no A. 1, 1, 1, 2, and 1, 4, 5. Okay, let's see what the difference is on that. Now we have background color and the color. So now all of our text is blue and our background is a transparent gray. So now we can get accepted here and get a little check mark from our friendly robot buddy. It's taking a little while. There we go. All right, next one is the February format. Lewis wants the February dates to appear in a different format than the January and March dates. Create a style rule for the data cells whose data date attribute contains the text Feb. And we're going to set a color and a inset box on that. So all the table data cells, TD, and we need to create a style, all those cells whose data date attributes. If we want to access an attribute, we start with the square bracket, data date, and contains the text Feb. Okay, so it's not going to be equal to February, but it's going to be kind of equal, so the tilde equal, and then we write Feb, okay, and close our square bracket, and we can start our rule. So that's what this here is. And there's some information about this in the book. And you can find that also on like a Mozilla developer page, but we're just going to go ahead and use that because it's just this one time. We're not going to be using it a whole lot, but it is really cool that we can put the attributes in there. If we had set the attributes to be equal to this or that, we could just say equal to, but we actually want to look inside of that value and see if it contains just the 3-character string FEB. And if it does, we're going to set a background color to another RGBA value. So the February ones are going to have a somewhat transparent color that is a different color. And the nice thing about having the somewhat transparent color is the colors are going to then overlap each other and create even cooler colors, perhaps. So this value is 232, 214, 148, and 0.6 again. And also a box shadow. So box shadow, gray inset box shadow with horizontal and vertical offsets of 0 and a blur of 20. So the keyword inset they mentioned, we put inset, and the horizontal and vertical offset come first. Horizontal, then vertical, 0 pixels each. The blur comes next of 20 pixels. And the color comes last. That is not Gary, that's gray. Okay, and that will complete that. Let's have a look at it before we try and get signed off. So now we have a different background color for these. Okay, so pretty cool. So actually the background color is not overlapping because we're overriding it actually. We're overriding it. We set the background color for all the TDs to be this gray, and then we're overriding that, saying all the TDs with the data date that has the keyword FEB in it, you get this other background color. So that's nice. Set that. We should get check mark from our friendly robot. All right, he did that. Awesome. And now we're going to put in some styles for the caption. Create a style rule for the table caption that does these 4 things. Display the caption at the top of the table which that is the default. We're going to set it anyway. Centers the caption text. Also, that's the default. We're still going to do it. And adds 10 pixels to the bottom padding space and sets the font size to 1.2 EM and the letter spacing to 3 pixels. So letter spacing is a new thing for us. So we'll set the caption. I should not have capitalized that. Okay, the caption is going to be the caption side. Okay, this is a weird setting. Caption side used to be something else, and it got deprecated and changed. You used to be able to put it at the top, bottom, left, or right. Now it's called caption side. You can only put it on the top or the bottom, which top and bottom are not sides, so I don't know why it has this name, but that's its name. Okay. They want the text align to be center. That's also the default, but now we're confirming that center. Padding bottom, so bottom padding. All right, none of the other paddings, just the bottom set to 10 pixels. This will put some spacing below our text. And font size 1.2 EMs. And a letter spacing. This is a new one. I'm going to do the letter spacing. Letter spacing, they want us to set to 3 pixels. Okay, so I'm going to do this one, and I'm going to look back in the page and turn it on and off so you can see exactly what it does, because it's really cool. So I'm going to inspect this, the caption, and find the letter spacing and turn it on and off. And so it's actually putting spacing in between each letter in that caption. So really cool. Really nice to be able to do that. Turn this off. We should be able to get our friendly robot to accept this for us as well. We took care of the caption. Awesome. And then the last one on this page, for the heading cells within the table header, create a style rule to change the background color to this background and the text color to white. So they want the heading cells, not just the heading cells within the table header. Okay, because we don't want the heading cells everywhere in the table, just the ones in the table header. And the color is white, and the background color is this RGB value. RGB, and they've told us 154, 64, and 3. All right, so that value, and that's going to be just this top header. So that RGB value is actually the same as the table border because it totally matches. All right, we should get checked for that. That one was pretty easy. All right, we did need to make sure that we accessed the table header cells that are within the table header row group though, so that we only get the ones that are in that row. So that's going to do it for this page. And now on the next page, they want us to start working on this area right here and put this into columns. Okay, and so it's going to look like this when it's finished. All right, our calendar is all complete. So we're going to go to the columns CSS style sheet and start working on this area. All right, it's we got a couple of things going for us here. Create a style rule for the article element. That shouldn't be too hard. All right. Generally speaking, most pages should just have a single article because the article is the content area for that page. That's what the page is about. And so you don't too often have pages with more than one thing on them, unless maybe it's a home page or it's something like that. So we're going to save all the articles. All right, set the column width to 260 pixels. Column width, now this is what powers this whole thing. We set this to 260 pixels, and as soon as we do that, it starts breaking this into columns that are 260 pixels. And as our page screen size grows and shrinks, it'll be able to fit more and less columns. So that one line powers that whole thing, and everything else is just going to adjust it and make it look a little bit different. So we have that, and then set the column gap to 20 pixels. The column gap is this space in between each column. The default for that is 1 EM. They want it to be 20 pixels. Add a 1 pixel solid dividing line between the columns. Now we can't use border because if we set a border on the article, it's just going to go around the outside of the article. If we set a border on the elements in the article, it's just going to go around each element. So we have something called a column rule that puts a line down in between each column. And that follows the same syntax as the border. It's a different name. It's called column rule, but inside of that, it's the same syntax. So it's a 1 pixel solid, and then we have a color. It's an RGB value of 1546431. That's that same brown color that we've been using a lot already. And then set the minimum size of widows and orphans. Those are lines either at the bottom of a column or the top of a column. We don't want a single line to be stuck there, either widowed or orphaned by itself. So it wants us to set those to 2. Okay, and remember that orphans and widows is actually plural in here. And a side note, widows and orphans are not usable in Mozilla Firefox currently. It is workable in all other browsers, just not those. So that sets all of that. So we have our column rule, we have our widows and orphans, and we have our column gap. And then the last thing they say here is create a style rule for the H1 that's in the article to extend across all the columns. So within the article, the H1 that's in there, it needs to extend across all the columns, and it does that with something called column span, which is very similar to col span from the tables, except that it only takes place here. It's not used in tables, it's used here only. And our options are initial, inherent, and unset are always options. That's not what we're going to pick. We're going to either pick all or none. The default is none. By default, none of the elements will span columns. They will fit into the columns. That's the default to keep columns working. So we're going to tell it to actually span across all columns. We don't get to put a number value in here and tell it how many columns to span across. That's not an option. All right, so we have our H1 here, and now it's actually spanning across all the columns. So let's see if we can get our friendly robot to check us off for this. Okay. We may or may not, and we are. Okay, good. I had a suspicion that we might have to put the WebKit prefixes on here, but we don't. So that'll do it for this page. And the last page is just to get a final full test. We can check that off. I think we're going to be okay. Let's see if we get a success message on this from our friendly robot. And I did not. Let's see. Okay, the desktop size is incomplete. And the problem is a 10% difference. Let's see if I can see the difference. Mine looks like this. And theirs looks like this. So I think I do have to put that WebKit in here. So I need to put the WebKit prefix on all of these. All the column settings. And remember, when we set a WebKit or a Mozilla prefix, we set it before the standard setting. That way, browsers that understand the setting, the standard one, will override that. So let's try and get that checked off from our robot this time, now that I have the WebKit prefix in here. There we go. Got that. All right. And so that's going to complete T6 case problem 3, the Lyman Hall Theater. All right. Thank you.